So good afternoon, everyone. So today is the third session of our STL series. So we will be starting with that. Girish will be taking our session. And if by chance you have missed any of our previous sessions, all of the videos will be in our YouTube channel. So you can just watch it. The link will be provided soon. Okay. So Girish, all the best. You can start now.
My name is Girish Garg, and this is the third session of the STL series. In this session, we are going to talk about the map and STL containers of the C++ STL library. And before beginning, I would like to share my own experience with working with STL. So when I began competitive programming, I was so intimidated by looking at these fancy keywords like these vectors or maybe sort, or you may have seen something called pairs or maps. I was so intimidated by looking at these keywords. And that's when I realized that I don't know C++ that well. So I read some articles online, I watched some tutorials on YouTube, and I started to use STL while programming. So STL is very useful because it saves a lot of time. Many functions like the sort function and the hash function, which if you don't know, are already implemented in the STL library. So you need not implement your own sort function. So let's start with the session. First, we are going to talk about the set container. I hope the color of the pencil is fine for everyone. If it's not fine, I can change it. Yes. So what is a set container? A set container is used to store unique elements. And what do I mean by unique? I mean to say that, say, suppose you have some elements, say 1, 2, 3, 1, 5, 3. And if you insert them into a set will only contain the unique elements from this array. So my set will only have 1, 2, 3, and 5. So a set container is helpful if you want to remove redundancy from your array and only want to store unique elements. Another important feature of the set STL that you must remember is that you cannot update you cannot update any element. So for example, when you might have studied array, must have seen that you can assign the array some values. So suppose I assign the uh, first index to be 7, then I can change this value to some other value. So suppose 8. But in set, this is not possible. If you want to update any element in the set, you have to say, suppose you want to update 5 to 6. So what you have to do, you have to first remove 5 from the set and then again input 6 into the set. So a set has some basic functions like the insert function, the erase function, and the find function. These are some of the most commonly used functions, and we'll be talking about these. And the time complexity of each of these operations is O of log n. Basically, if you see one of the reasons why we use set is that a set can keep the elements in an ordered fashion. For example, I have inserted here 1, 2, 3, 1, 5, 3. So in my set, the elements will always be ordered. At any point of time, if I print the elements of my set, the elements will always be in an ordered fashion. Even if I insert in 5, then suppose I insert 1, then 3, and then 7. If I insert them into my set, and I print the elements of the set, finally I will have 1, 3, 5, and 7. So a set will always keep the elements in ordered fashion. You also have an unordered set. So basically, a set can be of two types. One is the normal set that you have known till now, and other is an unordered set. So basically, if you want to know how a set is implemented internally, the underlying implementation of a set uses
Girish, it should be said. I think you have written map by mistake.
where? Oh, sorry, sorry. Oh, so this will be set. Oh, thank you. So the underlying implementation of a set data structure is actually a red black tree. If you want, you can read about it online. So let us now move on to the implementation part of the set and see how the functions of a set uh, look like. So I will first start with writing the basic header files of any C++ program. I will define the main function here, and let's say I also create a function called set demo, and here I will be writing all my code related to set. Let me also call it inside the main function. Okay, so in order to define a set, you need to write set of whatever data type the elements will be. You have to write them inside the angle brackets. So you can write set int s. Here int is the data type of the elements that you will be inserting. So I have created a set of integers. You can also create a set of characters. You can also create a set of strings, doubles, floats, or whatever you want. You can also create a set of custom data types. So suppose you have defined a custom data type using the using class in C++, you can also use that. So this is the set container, and if you want to insert any elements into the this set, you must use the insert function. So I will insert some elements into this set. First I will insert one, so let's simply insert more elements. Let's say 2, then let's say -10, and say 78, or say 25, or 16. These are some of the elements that I have inserted. Now, if you want to see what are your elements, or you want to access what are your elements, so there are two possible ways. First, you can have an iterator. You can use an iterator to loop through the elements of the set. So I will say auto it is equals to s dot begin. So what is this auto? Auto keyword was first introduced in the C++ 14 version. So basically, usually what happens is that if you want to declare an integer, say suppose int a is equals to 10, what you have to do, you have to first declare what a is. Okay, now, but if I say suppose write int a is equals to inverted commas and then b, so this will throw an error, because in the left hand side I have said that a is an integer, and in the right hand side I am giving a string, so this will throw an error. But instead of int, I can write auto a equal to 10. So this will automatically take the data type of whatever value A is assigned to. Here I have assigned A to be a string, so A will now become a string. I hope that's clear to everyone. And what is this begin? So s dot begin will give me the iterator to the first element of the set. So let's say this is my set. This is my set. So s dot begin is an iterator, or you can say a pointer, which is pointing to the first location of my set, or the first element of the set. Similarly, there's also a function called s dot end. And any guesses where it is pointing to? S dot end. S dot end is pointing to the element after. S dot end is pointing to the location after the last element in the set. So these two things must be remembered. Continuing with our implementation, so our iterator is currently pointing to the first location of the set, and what we want it to do is that we want our iterator to loop through the elements. So we will loop through the elements until our iterator reaches the end of the set. So right, iterator should not be equal to s dot end and iterator plus plus. Now I will just output the element that is currently inside the set. In order to do that, I will use the star operator. What this star operator is doing is that this star operator is basically assessing the value which the IT iterator is currently pointing to. I hope that's clear. So let me print this result. Okay, so this has thrown me an error. The error is set was not declared in the scope. The reason for this is that I have not included the set library. So I have to first include the set library, not library, the header file. So I will include the set library and then I will run my program. See, so no matter what element, in what order I am inserting the elements, it is always giving me output in an ordered fashion. And also, all the redundant elements have been deleted. For example, one here was inserted thrice, but in our final set, one is only occurring once. I hope that is clear to everyone. Next, what if I want to erase any element? So I can say s dot erase. And what element do I want to erase? Say suppose I want to erase 25. So let's erase 25 and let's print my set again. Let me put a space over here so that you can differentiate between the two. So see, 25 was here, but 25 isn't here. So we have got our expected output. There's another way that you can erase 25. Let me show you. Say suppose you want to, before that, let me tell you how the find function works. So this was the erase function. Let me tell you how the find function is working. So you can just call the find function on this container and it will search for any element that is inside the set. Say suppose I want to search for -10. So it will search for -10 and what will it return? It will return an iterator. This iterator is pointing to the location where -10 is present. So if I print the value that is stored at that location, it must give me 10. Let's see. So yes, it is giving us 10. I hope that's clear to everybody up till now. But what if minus 10 is not present in the set? In that case, our iterator will point to the end of the set. So if element is not present, s dot end will be returned. So let's see if that works out. So say it is equals to s dot find. Let's say any number which is not present in this array, not present in this vector. Say 100. 100 is not present in this set, so I will search for 100, but this should return me an iterator which points to the end of the array. So I will first check it whether it is not equal to s dot end. If it is not equal to s dot end, that means we have found our element. Else, we can say that the element was not found. So 100 is obviously not in the set, so it should return us not found. Let's see. Oh, great. So we get not found. Let's check for 1. Awesome. We get found. So apart from these functions, the set also has the lower bound function. What does the lower bound function do? Lower bound will give me the first element, gives me the first element that is greater than or equal to the element, whatever element that we are searching for. Say suppose I want to find the lower bound of 15. So this will again return me an iterator. So I can say iterator is equals to s dot lower bound. Let's see what value we are getting. So let me run this program. So this is returning us 16. Why 16? Because if you see here, here, the first element that is greater than or equal to 15 in this particular set is 16. If we search for, suppose 16, it will return us 16. See, 16 again. Also, there is the upper bound function, which will give us the strictly greater element. Strictly greater element. So if we search for the upper bound of 16, let's see what it returns. So the upper bound of 16 is 78 because it is the first element which is greater than 16, 78. So these are some of the basic functions of set. Let's do a problem. From the problem will be from Codeforces. It's Codeforces 22A. Okay. So I will explain what the problem is. The problem says that we are given an array. Consider it to be an array. First, we are given the size of the array, and then we are given the elements. What we need to do? We need to Let's choose each number from the sequence exactly once and sort them. We have to choose numbers from, we need to choose unique numbers from this array and then sort them. So number one, we have to choose unique elements. Number two, we have to sort them. And then what we need to do, the value on the second position is the second order statistics of the given sequence. No need to worry about, they are just asking for the value that is occurring on the second position. And if the given sequence has second order statistics, output this order statistics, otherwise output no. So if we have only one unique element in our array, we have to print no. So let's see why we can use the set data structure here. We can use the set data structure here because the set data structure will contain only unique elements. It will contain only the unique elements, and all the elements in our set are ordered. So at any point of time, all our elements will be sorted. So this seems to be a perfect data structure to use here. So let's start with the implementation part. Nothing much to explain here. Let's just write the code. I will create a file and let's start. Does anyone have any doubt till here? Okay, so I think I can continue. So I'll first write the header files, that is the basics of any C++ program. I will define the main function and let's see what's the input format. The input format is the first line of input contains integer n, amount of numbers in the sequence. So, okay, I will declare an integer n, I will input an integer n. What's next? They say the second line contains n space separated integer numbers. Okay, so next I will be given n integers. So let me run a loop for int I equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus, and now I have to input those n integers. So where will I input this? Any guesses? Where should I input these numbers so that my numbers that I input are
हाँ वो
always
चैट
unique
बॉक्स में आया
and
है कुछ
always
डाउट, वो
sorted?
एक बार
Any
देखना,
guesses, anyone?
मैं रिकॉर्डिंग हो रहा है ना, वो आ जाएगा फिर।
Okay, so we shall be using here the set data structure, and since all the elements are integers, we will use a set of integers. We are using a set of integers. So we'll use a set of integers and then we will input n elements into our set. So I will input the element into the set, and how will I input? I will use the insert function. So I have inserted all my elements into the set. Now I have to check whether the size, whether the size of my set is
So,
greater than, yes,
so if you are declaring any variable inside the loop, will it show an error?
no, why?
So we are declaring integer of x within the loop.
Yes, that is completely fine. You can declare it anywhere. So basically what is happening? We have declared the integer inside this loop, so the scope of this particular integer is only till here. I can access this particular variable only inside these two particular curly brackets, not outside this. If outside this, I suppose I try to access this variable, this will throw me an error. This is throwing me an error. It says x was not declared in this scope. So,
Yes, sir.
okay. So I hope that cleared your doubt.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you need not call me sir. You can call your teachers. I am just your senior. So we have to first check whether the size of my set is greater than 1. How will I do this? See, the set STL is a very vast thing. So if you are ever stuck at any problem, if you don't know how to use a particular function or a particular container, you can always search on Google. So I want to check what I need to do. I want to check whether the size of my set is greater than 1. So I want some function that will return me the size of the set. So let's see. I will search for set stl c++. Okay, so this is giving me the link to the official documentation of C++. Okay, so here I have the set STL, and if I scroll down, okay, so here are all the functions that have been defined for the set STL. I want the size. I want to know what is the size of my set. This seems to be a perfect function for my use case. Size. This returns the container size. Okay, so I think I can use this. This returns the number of elements in the set container. I think this is perfect for our use. So I will see
ছোটকে
if
ফোন করো তো, বলো যেন
s
আসে।
dot size.
ও ছোটবার বাবা গেছে?
Are they using the same syntax here? So they are using dot size. So if s dot size is less than 1, obviously if the size of my set is 1, I cannot have a second element, and they're asking me for the value of the second element in the set. So if the size is less than, I think it should be less than 2. That is, if the size is only 1, then I should print no. And otherwise I can always give them the answer. So how will I access the second element of my set? So usually when you are working with arrays, there is the access operator, this third brackets, which you can use very easily. But in case of set, since the underlying implementation is a red-black tree, you need to use iterators. So I will again define this iterator here, and I will point it to the beginning of the set. So this iterator is currently pointing to the beginning of the set. Now, if you want, just for your curiosity, if you want to know what this auto actually is, in this particular case, what is the data type of s.begin? So let me tell you, the data type of s.begin is set int, and this is the data type of this particular IT. Even if you replace auto with auto with this particular line, this will give us the same answer. They both are the same thing. But since auto is a bit easier to use, so we will use this. So IT is currently pointing to the beginning of our set, and what we want is to access the second element. So what we need to do, we need to just shift our iterator. For that, I will use IT++, and then simply I will print the value at that particular location. I hope that's fine for everyone. Let me check. Let me check the test cases. Okay, so it's throwing us error. Can anyone say why this error is being thrown to us? Set was not declared in this scope. We just solved this particular error in our previous program. Set was not declared in the scope. Can anyone say why this?
To include the header file.
Yes, exactly. So we have to include the header file. In fact, let me tell you a trick. like you will be using these STL containers all the time. So uh, do you want to like uh, write the header files every time you use these functions? No, right? So instead of writing IOStream and then set, I will use a trick here. What I will do is that I will just write hash include bits slash stdc plus plus h. So what this is doing is that it is including all the header files right from IOStream to set, vector, maps, and all the STL libraries. So this is very helpful. You need not write all the header files one by one. So I just wrote it once, and I need not care about writing the header files again and again. So the program compiles perfectly this time. Let me try the solution. So it's giving us the correct output 1 as expected. Let me try for this. Again, so correct. So this is giving us a perfect output. Let us try submitting the solution. I will choose my file and I will submit it. Make sure you have chosen the correct language. The problem is in Cube. It's running. Let's see. Oh my, awesome! It has been accepted. So I hope you understood this problem. If yes, we could go on to our next container, that is the map container. If you have any doubt in the code, you can ask me. If you want me to explain this particular code again, I can do that. If you have understood, we can move on. All good? Okay then. Okay, so we shall be moving on with our next container, that is the map container. So just a second. So map. Say suppose I will give you a very simple example. Say suppose you have gone to a restaurant and you ask for suppose you have gone to a college canteen and you ask the shopkeeper there what are the price of the items there. So suppose you asked what is the price of burger. He told you, suppose 30 rupees. You asked what is the price of fries. He told you 25. You also wanted a coke with that. So he told you the price for that would be how much is the coke worth? 35. And your friend also wanted a packet of chips. So chips is 10 rupees. So what is happening here? You are you are asking the shopkeeper a query, what is the price of burger? And he instantly tells you the price of burger is 30. Now I ask you to store this data in a data structure. What can you do? You can use an array. Say suppose you said that burger means 0, fries means 1, coke means 2, and chips means 3. So okay, you will create an array 30, 25, 35, and 10. So you created an array. But is this efficient? Do you think this is efficient? If you give this data structure to your canteen wale bhaiya, he will need to refer to two lists at a time. This will be the list number 1, and this will be the list number 2. That is, what does 0 mean? What does 1 mean? So you will have to carry two lists. So why not give this this list to your shopkeeper. Why give two lists? Why not just give this particular list? So this exactly is the set data structure. This exactly is the map data structure. So map data structure is actually mapping these values with these values. And what are these values called? These are called keys, and each key is mapped to a value. Each key has a value, and just like a set, a map can be an ordered map, which is simply defined as map, and an unordered map where the elements are not ordered. I hope that this is fine till here. If anyone has any doubts, you can ask me. If not, we can continue. So the underlying implementation of a map data structure is a BST, a self-balancing binary data structure. By binary tree, this is a self-balancing. Self-balancing BST. And another point here is that all the keys are ordered. So just like the set data structure, this too has some functions like the insert function, the find function, and the erase function. Apart from this, there are functions too, but those are not used that widely. So let us go on to the implementation part. I will create another function, void map demo, and I will also call it inside my main function. I hope this is fine for everybody till now. Now, how do I define a map? So I want, let's see here. This is a string and this is an integer. So I want a map where a string is mapped to an integer. So I want a map of strings to integers. So I will write map, and inside angle brackets, I will say string comma int. And I will give it a name. So say suppose this is my menu. I want to insert elements into my menu. Let's say burger, 30 rupees. Sorry for that. And let's insert 4 items into our menu. Burger, let's say, and say pulao. Let's say 50 rupees. Let's say Coke, 50 rupees. And let's say pizza, 100 rupees. So if I want to iterate through the elements of this particular menu, what I will do, again, I will use an iterator. I will define an auto, I will use the auto keyword. So auto IT will be equal to menu.begin. I want my iterator to first point at the beginning of the menu, and then this loop should run until menu, until my iterator is not pointing to the end of the array. So And how do I print the elements of this menu? So see, what is happening here is that IT is pointing to so we have a map of key value pairs. Mind my language, we are using a map of key value pairs. And you must have, if you have attended our previous sessions, you know what a pair is. So a map is nothing but a collection of key value pairs. So initially IT is pointing to the first element, and if I want to access the element that is IT is currently pointing to, what my IT is currently pointing to, it is nothing but a pair of string and int. So a pair of string and int. So I will use the star operator to access that particular element, and and you know how to print a pair. I will just say p dot first, so give me the first element and the second. So let's see. And if you remember, I said that a map always stores the keys in an ordered fashion. So for the strings, it will be the lexicographical order or the alphabetical order. Let's see what our output is. Uh, let's comment out the set part, and we have to also include the set header, the map header file. Let's try to run this program. Okay. Okay. So we are not, so this is, the map is actually basically a collection of a collection of pairs. A map is a
মা একটা বোতল দেবে একটু মা, যদি উঠে থাকো।
collection of pairs. So if I want to insert elements into my map, I have to make sure that I am inserting pairs. So what will I do? If I want to insert a pair, I must uh, enclose it within the curly brackets. So this is now a pair. So similarly, I will use the same thing here. And let's print it now. Okay, so it's giving me an output: burger, Coke, pizza, and pulao. So it doesn't matter in what order we are inserting our elements, the map will always store the elements in ordered fashion. Apart from this function, there is the erase function. So I can erase a particular item from a menu. So I will say menu erase. Let's say the canteen is not serving pizza anymore. So I'll say erase pizza, and let's again print the menu. Let me add an line for better visibility. So see here. So just a second. Did I make a mistake here?
Thanks, really thanks. Means a lot.
Let me check. So I can also do this in a different way. I can pass in the iterator to that particular location. Says that, am I making a mistake? Can anyone from the moderators please help me if I'm making a mistake? Okay, so whenever you are stuck at any problem, you can always check the documentation. I will check the documentation here. Map STL C++ erase function. So I had an error here that had my erase function was not working as expected. So I will see what the tutorials online say. So uh, in the erase function, I have to only pass the key. Okay, so I only need to pass this particular key, and I hope this will work. Okay, great, awesome. So we wanted to remove this pizza, and this pizza has been removed. So all these operations take O of log n time. So if you are inserting one element, it will take log n time. If you are inserting n elements, it will take n log n time. I hope this was clear to everybody till now. If you have any doubts, you can just ask me. I can explain it again if you want. If not, we can continue. So we will solve this problem from Spoj. It goes by the name RPLD Spoj. Okay. So here's the problem. I'll just explain you what this problem is stating. So first, just come to the input output part. I'll also share the link in the chat. Okay. So first you are given the test cases, the number of test cases. The problem states that there are some students who are studying in a university and they have taken some courses there. And first we are given the number of test cases, and then we are given the number of students studying in the university. And in the question we have been told that the university maintains a database of uh, what courses a student has taken. So here, say suppose 4 is the number of lines in my database. So the database says that the student 1 has taken 6102 course, the student 1 has also taken 6103 course, and the student 2 has taken 6102 course, student 2 has taken 6103 course. So a course can be taken by multiple students, but a particular student cannot take the same course twice. Okay. So the question says that the database the database suffered an attack by a group of hackers, and what the hackers did, for example, the backup file can now show that a student is seeing two same subjects. So it may happen that the hackers did something mischievous, and now this particular student number 1 is studying the same subject twice. So we just need to tell that if a particular database is correct or not. If it's correct, we need to print possible, and if it's not correct, we need to print impossible. So I will just move on to the code and I will explain you it side by side. So this problem is from Spoj. So I have this pre-built template for myself where I define my int to be long, and I also have included all the header files here. So I will quickly write down the code. So first, let me take the number of test cases, and for int I equal to 1, because we are starting from the first test case till the tth test case. We want to run this loop for t times. Let's also have a solve function here. So let's have a solve function here. And inside my solve function, I want to process each test case. So the first line of each test case is the starting with n and r. We are given two integers n and r. N is the number of students. So n is the number of students, and r is the number of lines in my data set. R is the number of lines in my data set. And these are the, then we need to process these r lines. So I'll run a loop r times, and now what I want to do is that instead of what is happening here, that here each student is having the number of courses, the courses for each student is given not together, it is given separately. So one is taking 6102 course, one is taking 6103 course, and then two is taking 6102, two is again taking 6103. So instead of this format, I don't want this format. I want my uh, data to be saved in different format. How? So one is taking 6102 course and one is also taking 6103 course. And two is taking 6102 course and two is also taking 6103 course. So I want a data structure of this particular kind. So one thing that I can figure out by this is that this can be my key and this can be my value. So it seems that I can have a map of, this is int for the student ID, and here I will have a vector. Why a vector? Because uh, there may be many courses that a student is taking. So I will keep a vector of int and I will give it a name, so suppose MP. So let's continue. So I will use a map data structure, map of int to vectors. I hope this is fine for everybody. Map is of int to vector style. If anyone has any doubt in this, you can surely ask me. This may be a bit difficult to absorb in the beginning, but with time you will be accustomed to it. So can we go on if you don't have any doubts? Okay, so I will carry on. So each line of database, what is the each line of database? The next R lines contains two integers I and C. I stands for the ID of the student and C for the subject code. Okay, so I need to input
হ্যাঁ
two integers here,
কি করবো দাঁড়াও
and now I want to insert these two elements into my map data structure. So how will I input? The student with ID equal to I is taking the R course. So
যাবো
what is this MP of I? What does this MP of I mean? This MP of I means a vector now. So MP was a map, but MP of I means a vector. So This is a vector, so I can push back elements into it. I'll push back R. But do you think vector will work here? I don't think so, because we have to only store unique courses. Say suppose if in the question it was given that one is also taking 6102 course again, so this particular thing is not possible. One cannot take the same course twice. So instead of a vector, I must have a set here. I must have a set here. So uh, instead of vector, I must use a set here, and in order to insert elements into the set, I will use the insert function. Now, in order to check whether uh, my input is correct,
হ্যাঁ,
I will just check if
চেঁচিও না,
the
দাঁড়াও, একটা কাজ করছি
total
বললাম,
number of
যাচ্ছি।
courses taken by all the students is equal to R. Do you understand why count should be equal to R? Let me just code it out once and then I will explain it to you. So in order to count all the courses that a particular student has taken, so I will use this for each loop, and I will add to it the size of the set. So I will add to it the size of the set. So p dot second means a set, and in order to access the size of this particular set, I will use the size function. Okay, and now if count is equals to R, I know that this particular case is possible. Otherwise, it's not possible. Also, I have to also write what is the test case number. So let me just write it down quickly. Uh, P is my test case number. I think this should work. So has everyone understood this particular code? If yes, I can just go on to submit this. Okay, so I have used I twice in the same scope, so I should use this some other thing. So instead of I will use X here. There was a small typo here. Oh, I made a small mistake here. So I think this code is perfect. So let me just try to submit it. There will be a semicolon here. Okay, so this works out, I think. Let me try and submit this code. Make sure you have chosen the correct language. Okay, so it got accepted. Cool. So that is it from my side. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Otherwise, we can just end the session here.